Welcome to Freda Chando Analysis, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching our channel for the first time, allow me to request you to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our videos. I have been following very closely the US-American summit that has been taking place in Washington, D.C. Over 49 heads of state were invited by the US President Joe Biden to take part in this event. A summit that Mr. Joe Biden summarized to the African heads of state as an opportunity for connection and an opportunity to close deals. That is what he told the African heads of state. In a way, he was encouraging the heads of state from Africa to ensure that they meet investors, to ensure that they meet companies and showcase to them why they should come back and invest in Africa. This event was very important to White House. In fact, to the effect that they decided to appoint Mr. Johnny Carson, who is a renowned diplomat, as a point man between White House and US in as far as the resolutions that were made in that summit are concerned, so that he's going to ensure that everything that was initiated, everything that was promised in that forum is going to be implemented. That is how important this summit is and was to White House. And there were several things, several goodies that took place. I've always said in this forum that we give credit where it's due. I mentioned earlier that one of the things for the first time that Mr. Joe Biden said is his commitment to support the creation of a slot for African Union in the G20 group. Apparently, we do not have any representation except South Africa. So Mr. Joe Biden committed to support the expansion so that Africa can have a slot. And I think this is very crucial. It's very important to us. Mr. Joe Biden committed 55 billion US dollars that is going to spend in Africa. Another good thing that I must support. There were other commitments about 300 billion US dollars that White House is going to give to mitigate the effects of climate change, and a number of things that I've always said, carrots that are dangled for the African states. But even as all these goodies were being given, there was another warning that was being given by White House. And White House warned African heads of state against committing to work with the East, China, Russia, and Korea. And I thought for a while that it might not be very easy as they think. Because even back in Kenya, if you ask citizens, they believe that America aided our president to ascend to power. And they have committed to work together. If you look at the movements of President William Ruto, he is switching from the east to the west, contrary to his former two predecessors, Mr. Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. But even of recent, our president went to South Korea and he secured some loan there. And recently, the Cabinet Secretary for Trade, Mr. Murkomen, announced that they are going to secure more loans from China so that they can expand the SGR from Naivasha to Malaba. And so I just thought that even if America feels that they can give warnings to this head of state, China has invaded Africa economically, and Africa cannot do without China. I was trying to read a lot of international journal, doing a lot of research on this summit. In fact, it took place in 2014 under the leadership of Barack Obama, and then Mr. Joe Biden was the vice president. And so he understands everything, every resolution that was passed there. But America slept on the job because after that meeting, there were several resolutions that were made. that if were implemented, they wouldn't have been where they are. They wouldn't have been now trying to catch up with China, because the truth is China has overtaken US in terms of direct investment to Africa. This was summarized by none other than Deputy Commerce Secretary, the US Deputy Commerce Secretary, Mr. Don Graves, said, and I just want to quote, that US has fallen behind as China has surged past American foreign direct investment in Africa. But he added that the US still remains a partner of choice. So they agree that at some point they went slow and China surpassed them. The statement goes on to say that we took our eye on the ball. I repeat that. We took our eye on the ball, so to speak, and US investors and companies are having to play a catch-up role. That is a statement from the Deputy Commerce Secretary of the US. They are saying that after the summit in 2014 under the leadership of Obama, it is like they buried their heads in the sand, and they took their eye from the ball, and the ball here is the African continent. And now they're saying that their investors and companies are now playing what they call a catch up, because China has surpassed them. The economic records that we have is that in terms of direct investment, that if you look at the US direct investment to Africa, it fell by 5.3%. It now stands at 30.3 US dollars, compared to the Chinese direct investment to Africa that now stands at 254 billion US dollars. You can look at that gap and see the difference, and you will understand why the Deputy Commerce Secretary, Mr. Don Graves, is saying China stands at 254 billion US dollars, while America stands at 30.3. So this tells you that America slept on the job. But the question is, when did the rain start beating US? How did they leave China to leapfrog them in terms of direct investment to Africa? The article that I was reading alludes to some fact that at some point America focused so much on Russia, because Russia had also economically invaded Africa, and they had partnered with nations like Libya, nations like Egypt and Sudan, and they were doing a lot of businesses in terms of arms, importation of jets, and America did not like this, so they started focusing so much on Moscow. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, they came in because they thought this was the right opportunity, and they were giving aids embargo. They were threatening African nations that were doing business with Russia, and that is how nations like Burkina Faso and Sudan missed out on this opportunity to attend the U.S. African Forum. So when China realized that America was focusing so much in Moscow, Beijing came into Africa because they got an opportunity. Because now Africans, the African nations which did not really feel comfortable doing business with America, found an alternative in Beijing in China. China came in with huge investments in infrastructure and giving loans. And if you look, that is the time that the direct investment to Africa increased tremendously. And this is how America lost it. And now they are trying to catch up with China, but China is ahead of them. And the article is saying that perhaps the reason why Africans find it easier to do business with the USA, Britain, and the EU is that when America comes to invest in a country, they will give goodies, but they have a basket that is there's this, a paradox of cocktail, that they will come and give you goodies, but they will still interfere with your democracy. If you look at many African countries, America will still even want to determine who becomes your president. At some point, they will be vilifying some president for going against the human rights and not upholding democracy. And that is what they said that nations like Burkina Faso are doing. But on the other hand, you will see America praising and giving accolades to African leaders who have stayed in power for over 20 years and persecuting any opponent who tries to grow horns. Anytime we have an election in such countries, they even threaten to kill their opponents. In some countries, opposition leaders have fled the country and they are no more, but America will still give them accolades and will not speak. Nations which will try, and they are in the red line of America. So the article was saying that when Beijing realized that this is the kind of investment and politics, economic and political approach that America had given Africa, they decided to come in as a direct opposite, with a direct opposite approach. Beijing or China will come to Africa and they will do their business and go back. When they give you money and you are misusing it, they don't care. All they know is that you have given a collateral security. Like in Sri Lanka, they took away, was it in Sri Lanka? Yes, they took away the port that had been given as a collateral security. They don't care whether you're misusing your money. Yet America will come and question how you are using your money. I don't know which one you would prefer. Someone who questions you how to use your money and will even decide not to give you if you mess it up. Or someone who will give you money as long as you want it, as long as you want it, but there is collateral security. If you mess around, they will take it. China will not interfere with your elections. Whether they know very well that these elections have been rigged and stolen, they will stay clear and they will assume that nothing is happening. I understand that in China, if you are found guilty of any corrupt deal, you will be shot. I don't know how true that is. Maybe if you have any Chinese here, you can tell me. But when they will come into your country and they know very well that the money that they gave you is being misused, they will not talk. They will not even question why a certain candidate is rigging elections. But America will come in sometimes when they realize that one candidate, maybe if you don't enjoy support with America and one candidate is rigging, they will come in and question. In Kenya today, our president, William Ruto, is a darling and of course a project of the US. They aided him and they love him. And this is the reason why many African countries decided to incline towards China. Because China will never, in fact, today, if you ask any Kenyan whether they would want China to come in or America to come in terms of interference with democracy, they will choose China because China does not interfere. China will be quiet and you will not see them giving you caution. America, for example, today, African countries are doing business with other nations. If you try doing business with Russia, I can assure you, you will be in trouble with America. But if you're doing business with China and they realize that you're also doing other businesses with their enemies, they won't care. Instead, they will come in dangling more carrots for you. Do you think the warning and the threats that the US is giving to African countries not to work with the East will work? Because they promised about 55 billion US dollars. I can assure you that I can assure you that China is watching, Korea is watching, and Russia is watching. In 2019, Russia also had such a summit where they committed about 19 billion US dollars. For the advantage that China has, they will call another summit, China-US summit, and they will know that this is the money that US has committed, we are committing double. It's not going to be very easy. And America will regret having put their eyes off the ball as they had alluded through their Deputy Commerce Secretary, Don Graves, because they will forever chase China. And I don't know whether they will catch up, ladies and gentlemen. Between America and China, who do you prefer to do business with? Please share with me in the comment section. And I want to submit to you that the African America, the US Africa Summit was a good thing. There were goodies that came in, but it will not take Africans away from China, because China has equally good stuff. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? That is my take.